Art is too important not to share. Welcome to the Allie and Callie Artcast.
Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Callie, and welcome to the Artcast.
Yes, Callie, how are you?
I am doing all right.
All right.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm really good.
Yeah.
You know, this winter, Kristen and I did an event in downtown Coeur d'Alene called the Mac and Cheese Fest.
I worked it on the other end.
You did. We actually stopped at the shop you work at and said hi to you and tasted your mac and cheese. It's a really fun event where you buy tickets and you get these little coupons that you take to various businesses around town, and you taste the mac and cheese that's made by certain chefs, and you get to try some different brews.
Yeah.
Either beer or cider is what they had, and it was really fun, and you get to pick a winner. Anyway, Kristen and I were at one of the places, and we happened to sit down with our guest today.
Yes.
And we got to talking to her, and I'm pretty excited that she's here because what a great opportunity to meet and talk to somebody and find out a little bit about them and realize that their life is wrapped around art.
Yes, and this is all out of a community event that happens every year, and you never know who you're going to meet.
That's right. You never know where you're going to find some inspiration and somebody fun to talk to.
Yes.
So we would like to welcome Elizabeth Wilkes, who is an artist. And Elizabeth, welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to art.
So I started doing art before I had my last child. He's 23 now. And I studied in Idaho under an artist for about 10 years. And I did mostly landscapes. And I made the moves from Hood River, Oregon, and over here to Washington. And my art changed a little bit, but I kept producing and, spending all the time that I could with it because it just is a wonderful thing that you can give from your soul. And I connected to nature, and I spent a lot of time on the Centennial Trail, and so I just loved being in nature. And unfortunately, in July of 2016, I got in a car accident, and I was rear-ended, and I was in just the kind of car that basically the impact was at my neck. So it caused a traumatic brain injury, and I lost the ability to do many of the things that you would call normal. I could only see straight. I couldn't see any peripheral. I lost the ability to walk properly, go up and down stairs, hike and run the way I was doing. I lost the ability to converse with people for long periods of time. I had no short-term memory. I spent a lot of time basically with migraines and pain and severe PTSD. And anybody with a brain injury can tell you one thing. There's no such thing as everybody having the same symptoms. It's all very unique to each person. The saying is, if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury.
Right.
Yeah.
And each person suffers differently. Each person's consequences of choices that they make along the journey either help them to heal or not. And so I spent hours in nature because I couldn't work anymore. And on the Centennial Trail and on the Coeur d'Alene Trail, I spent hours and hours walking in nature, trying to reconnect my limbs to my brain. Because all the processing and basically the helm of my ship didn't work anymore.
Wow.
And so even painting was difficult. And talking to people and explaining your thought process and where you're at and how you're feeling for the day and what you'd like to accomplish just didn't happen. And so art changed. And I started doing different things, music, creative things, and spending all my day doing those things. And my brain started to change. And so my speech was greatly affected too. So I couldn't spend a lot of time speaking. But when I would use my left hand and paint, I found that I was using my brain differently. So I started painting all of my artwork that is in my Healing Art series with my left hand.
And are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so I thought, well, this is unusual. I have no idea how to paint with my left hand. I'm just going to wing it. And so I did. And what I didn't understand was it actually helped heal my brain. It created new neural pathways. And so I got all of a sudden messages and signals, and I was able to sleep better, and I was able to see color differently, and I was able to see what was on the page differently. And so the whole experience of art became way more deep into my soul than it had ever been before.
Wow.
And I was so grateful because I felt like I learned a whole new understanding of the spiritual walk. Spiritual walk in nature, spiritual walk in just creating something. And so that's why I created all of my pieces in the Healing Art series, was so that people could see my journey. And then I take the time to explain them on my website, so that they understand what I was doing at the time. Because I didn't know. Each piece was new and different, and I had no idea what I was going to create.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I was looking up a little bit about art therapy and brain injuries. And what I found was that art therapy, what I found on the website, was that art therapy can help people with brain injuries process and express their experiences, can improve their quality of life, help with rehabilitation by improving motor skills and memory. And there's all these benefits to art therapy and art, and just the whole idea of creating. What a magical thing that you were able to, maybe because of your previous experience with art, led you to that. Certainly, I think, right?
I agree. I agree. And the colors affect each part of your brain differently, and the organs in your body differently. And if you know anything about the chakras or energies of the body, it affects your organs and how each one works, and color stimulates them. And so being around each one of those colors and what they represented meant so much more to me, because I was looking at it from the internal aspect rather than the external. And so I learned to appreciate my liver and my kidneys and my eyes and my hearing and my throat and the speech and my heart chakra and everything about it totally differently. I saw it as this wonderful, beautiful gift. And unfortunately, we look at the outside of people and we make assumptions that they're all together, that they've got it all right just because of the outside. And it's just not accurate. There's so much work that we need to do on the inside in healing our past traumas, physical, that a lot of them become. And especially PTSD with someone with a brain injury, a head injury, any kind of stroke, dementia, people that have suffered rape, trauma to the body of any kind, abuse, art helps. It helps tremendously.
Right. It's a great outlet for expressing feelings and emotions and experiences.
Yes.
And what's your website?
RenewYourMindArt.com.
Okay, and that's where they can, if they wanted to buy or read more about you. Okay,
Yes.
So you do sell your art.
Yes, I do sell prints. And the Healing Art the whole collection is on there. And they can also email me or phone me on the phone number there. And I do special art classes for people that have had trauma, so that I work with them.
Oh, good.
And so if they've had a brain injury, a stroke, any kind of trauma, I can work with them and help them understand the process of what actually happens to the brain when they start to paint. And bring out all of the colors. And they get super excited, and they see the world differently, because it's not about their trauma anymore. It's about creating something. And you create a safe space, and you just work with them. A lot of time they cry. Sometimes they get angry. Sometimes they're processing and they talk about what it was that they went through. But it's a very freeing experience for men and women.
Right.
Therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Healing of the soul.
Yeah.
I would say.
I remember years ago I took a art therapy class, and it was really interesting. I think that was the first time that I ever realized how important art is to our whole mental being.
It's basically a spiritual rebirth of the body, and that's how I saw it, because I'm a different person now. I am not the same as I was. And they tell you that a lot when you're first injured, that you're not going to be the same. And quite frankly, I didn't like hearing that.
Right.
I didn't want to forget my kids' names, and I didn't want to forget what I'd done with my life. And a lot of times you do lose a lot of those memories. And so I hung on to them every day by reliving what I could remember as I walked and as I spent time in art and color and in music. And all of it just changed the way my brain worked, and it didn't feel the pressure of having to be something that I wasn't. I was different. I had changed.
Right.
But that was okay.
Right.
And now I was on a different journey.
Right. That kind of reminds me of the movie 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore
Yes.
and Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah.
Where he made a movie of her life, and every morning she'd wake up and watch the movie and be reacquainted with her life.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating,
Yes, it is.
the whole idea, the concept of the movie is pretty interesting.
Do you feel that you have healed, or that you feel like a new person, a different person? Do you feel like there's still work to be done, or do you feel like as you keep doing this work, you're still in the healing process?
Well, there's healing of the physical body. Then there's also, basically, I can only call it enlightenment that comes from actually helping others.
Yeah.
And helping them accomplish, healing, and accomplish a good day or a good hour or whatever time period that they get. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel things that you've never felt before, because you look at it from this perspective of, well, I went through all of this for a reason, and I didn't give up for a reason, and it wasn't just for me. And if there's one person out there with a brain injury that can hear my story and know that I suffered too, and it was difficult, and they tell you all kinds of negative things.
Oh, yeah.
The doctors, the staff, they don't even want to use those words. They don't even want to tell you how bad it is. They just say, call your family. Call somebody that can explain it to you.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was in that position, and I heard all those same things. And I didn't want that to be my life. I wanted something different. And if you have the desire in you, it can change. And you just need support. You just need people to support you in your journey and give you those avenues and say, hey, I tried this worked. I tried music, the higher hertz music, it worked. I tried journaling, it worked. I tried, talking to people. Massages are great because they take out tons of trauma after you've been aggressively assaulted. They take out all that trauma from your fascia. There's all kinds of things that we can do, but art was the key to changing my brain pattern.
Right.
It actually changed how I saw the world, and I couldn't believe that I was getting all these things back that I thought I'd lost forever.
Right.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be fascinating if they could do a brain scan before, during, and after?
Yes, that would have been cool.
See what it's actually doing visually in the brain.
In the brain.
Because it is changing the way your brain is made.
Yes.
Right.
For all your screen printing needs, trust the local you can count on. Pyramid Printing has been a Coeur d'Alene favorite for over 2 decades.
Specializing in screen printing, embroidery, signs, banners, and stickers. For all jobs, big and small, just give Eric a call.
Email us at info@pyramidprintingcda.com or give us a call at 208-664-0254.
pyramidprintingcda.com. Well, I would love to hear about the process of how how you got, I mean, basically from the time of your accident through the therapy that got you to where you realized that art was really going to help you and how you could help other people.
Well, the very first time was when I made the first painting. It's called Harmony. Mm-hmm. And I actually painted the piece and I didn't look at the paper. I just painted on the paper, was all abstract is what I thought at the time. Mm-hmm. And I felt the colors and I put them onto the watercolor paper. I didn't realize it was actually making something. I just thought I'm doing something. I love this. This feels great. Mm-hmm. You know, I had no inclination or thought process ahead of time. Oh gosh, I'm going to make this painting. It's going to look like this. There was none of that. It was just all in the moment.
And were you using your right hand at that time?
No, I was using my left hand.
You were using, okay.
Yes. And so I prayed about it, and I just basically asked for a new awareness of my body and my soul and my spirit. Mm-hmm. And I just started painting, and I would feel the color, and I would spend time with the shapes. And so if you look on my website, you can see Harmony, and the piece ends up being a bird, and the bird is out on a ledge, and there's literally all these colors underneath the bird that represent so many things. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the piece for the first time, I actually was on the phone FaceTime with a girlfriend at the time. And I put it up against the wall and I said, oh my gosh, look, there's a bird. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then I started to cry because there was a little yellow bird, and I had little yellow birds living outside my apartment at the time when I was going through some really dark times. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt that was the Lord or God speaking to me and saying, hey, I've been here this whole time. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to be able to paint this experience. And this is going to come from within. It's not going to be anything you've done before. It's not going to be anything you really understand, but you're going to heal through this. Mm-hmm. And so I spent that time with her. We saw the piece. We talked about it. We looked at it completely different, and we started to see all these things in the piece that we didn't realize that we would see.
Right.
Animals, shapes, what it did to us, how it made us feel. And the experience was so wonderful. Mm-hmm. It was so imaginative and great that I got to share it with someone. Right. And I was thrilled out of my mind that she was there sharing that experience with me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I do with my clients. Mm-hmm. I take something that they don't understand, that they're putting color, and there is a protocol that I use. Mm-hmm. And we start with dots, and we put them on the paper. And if someone's severely brain injured, dots are easy. Yeah. Right. Then we just do lines to the dots, kind of like we used to do dot to dots. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it makes kind of like an abstract shapes onto the paper. And then they paint in each one of those shapes a different color. And as they're doing it, they see and feel something that they didn't see and feel before. Mm-hmm. And I share that experience with their family. I definitely take pictures of the process that they're doing mm-hmm. while they're doing it, how they're seeing it. Sometimes they don't get it other than they created color. Right. Sometimes they remember things from childhood. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they remember their accident, or they remember something sad, and we talk about it. Mm-hmm. But they literally just feel completely different after they've put their feelings into color. Right. Mm-hmm. And their experiences that they don't even really know are in their brain, mm-hmm. but they come out through their hands. Right. And so that experience, being able to share it with someone and then relate it to something in the world. I'm thinking of one lady that had a brain tumor, and I helped her after she had her brain tumor removed. She didn't see trees and flowers and the outside the same way she did before. She used to like to walk. And so I was trying to connect her back to the outside again, mm-hmm. because she was spending a lot of time inside and she needed to get out in nature and walk. So after we did her piece, I talked about the colors and how the colors are in the tree. and how that tree, she had this big, huge tree outside in her yard, and it had all this root system, and how she is a root system. And we just focused on that and how that's in her brain and in her organs, in her blood vessels, and it's all working together to help get her better, to help her feel, to help her experience the world now. And so she became excited. She hardly spoke, but she became excited because she could remember the tree again. And that was a tree in her yard. So I try to relate it to things as much as I can around their house, in their yard. I look through photo albums. I look through things on the refrigerator. I look through things that they've done and spent time doing. I talk to their families about it so that we can bring those joyous times back into their life.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that you personally had to rebuild all of your relationships.
Yes.
I assume that this process is also helping them to rebuild their relationships, especially in the situation that you were in, which you wanted to remember them.
Yes. I wanted to remember my children. That was important to me. I couldn't remember a lot of things about them, but I knew I was having a good day if I could remember their names. So we work on all those kinds of things, especially if they have had a stroke where they're dealing with confused thoughts. Who's their child? Who is this person in the room? How important were they to them? And then we attach feelings back to the face and to the feeling that they're having about that person, because they're raw in the moment. They're incredibly raw. This is not things that they want to feel necessarily. And all of a sudden, they actually feel better about the experience being done in an art form and not just talking about it. It is actually something that's showing up on paper. So if they start to create something that just looks abstract, we just work with that. If they create something, like one lady did different shapes that look like fish. So I worked with her and we put little eyes on them and little tails and we did things, and she had this whole school of fish. So for her, that was something she wanted to cherish forever because she'd never done art before. So she'd made fish. So each person has the ability to create their own understanding inside their art.
Right.
And with that, they feel this just kind of big hug that comes over their body. It's warm, and it makes them feel connected to the world again. And they can let go of anger. They can let go of grief. They can let go of pain, and they can see it differently because they've now got this beautiful piece that they can relate it to. And so we put them, I frame them. Sometimes we put them in books. It depends on how many they make. And we share them with the family. Every time the family gets snapshots of everything they're doing so that they can understand it. And understand the changes in their family members because of the trauma or experiences they've been through.
Sure.
So you mentioned the colors and that each color has an effect on your body. Where did that concept come from?
Color therapy is actually a very old way of treating the body. People did it, literally 100 years ago. But there was a book that I read about color therapy, and it was basically like typed. That's how old it was on an old typewriter. And they bound it together with staples. And it was about an inch thick, and it went into all the effects of color on the body.
Yeah.
And so I did as much research as possible to understand color, because I wanted to see what it was doing for me, let alone how it's going to help other people. So on my website, I actually have the colors listed and how and what organs it affects.
Yeah, because I love, tell us a couple of colors.
A couple of the colors. Like blue, I love the color blue.
Yeah.
So blue increases the metabolism and it slows the heart rate down. It's cooling. It's tranquil. It's also used as an anti-inflammatory, and it increases the growth of healthy cells. It also affects the throat energy chakra, or the energy center. And if you speak truth from your heart, Blue really affects that. And it stimulates and represents the heavens, sky, celestial, truth, and royalty.
Wow. Well, the healing part of that, or the soothing, explains why hospitals are usually blue.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then the TV shows you'll see nowadays, they'll have in hospitals blue rooms where you go in there and there's plants, living plants in there, and there's blue lights in it. It's calming.
That's right. Good. Yeah. And green is probably a healing color as well, right?
Green stands for growth and overall health and vitality, harmony, connection. It also slows your metabolism and it helps you to calm down. It soothes the stomach and liver, and it also works on your heart energy center. So if you're having issues, you're feeling sad, you're feeling grief, you're feeling a lot of things, green is a great color to have in your house, on your walls. Wear green, as much green as possible, because it really does help.
Yeah, I need more green.
Yeah. It opens you up to receiving and giving love.
Oh, wow. One more color that I have really been attracted to, so tell me why, is orange.
So I think it's because it symbolizes warmth. A lot of people like something that's warm. It doesn't matter about temperature outside. It's just the thought of someone being warm and inviting. They're a warm personality. So it's a comfort. But it also stimulates your mental and physical energy.
Oh, well, see, I need that.
So it definitely works on your sacral energy center and your creative life force. So I can see why orange is very satisfying for you.
Yeah. Good for you. You and Kristen. I got to work on my green and my blue.
Green and blue
right now. I'll graduate to orange.
There you go.
I'll get there.
Well, I love that you actually can, with intention, use those colors in a painting to express your feelings.
Yes.
That's really cool.
And if someone is really hurting, I always move them towards the green. Because then they can open up their heart space and actually feel something coming back to them by creating something that looks like it's growing. Because let's face it, when we're hurting, we don't feel like we're growing.
Right.
We feel stuck.
Right.
And so growth is super important. And definitely having live plants in the house.
Yep.
It's something that's always growing, bulbs, flowers, whatever you can to bring up that whole energy center of growth and the understanding that we're growing every day. Every day we're growing.
Greetings, listeners of the Allie and Callie Artcast podcasts. This is Jason from Tubbs Coffee Roasters. Keeping art alive and culture relevant is the heart and soul of our community of creatives. And as a local coffee roaster who loves a good origin story of a painter or a farmer or a musician, we proudly support the Allie and Callie's Artcast podcast's expansion and exploration through positive conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, preferably one from Tubbs Coffee Roasters, and tune in, humans. Your ears will thank you.
So I'm really interested to hear how your doctors have responded to your healing process and what was the role that they played in guiding you to this particular path.
Well, something that some people might know about a doctor that is a physiatrist, and that's what I had. She was like a contractor, and she subbed out all of my different therapies to the different things she thought would help me. Speech therapy, occupational, physical therapies. There were two people that were pivotal in my healing process. One was Dr. Chevalier, and he's in Washington, D.C., and he came to Spokane. His procedures and protocols are about color also, but he also created an instrument that's a neurostimulator, and he used that on my spine, and it helped get me out of PTSD. So that was a key to the very first part of my healing.
Right.
Dr. Stonick, she is now retired, but she does have the bariatric treatment center here in Spokane, which she works still with people with PTSD, depression, head injuries, and she uses the bariatric treatment. And she saw my art and was able to see that I was a different person. She saw that time and me doing some different things, not always the traditional doctor things.
Right.
You know, she knew I walked everywhere. She knew that I spent a lot of time in the bathtub, you know, in the dark. I listened to a lot of music. She knew I did all of these things. They weren't things she necessarily prescribed, but they were things that I learned helped me. I would say for her, seeing that I had changed, she definitely was excited about that. But Lori over at Foundations, it's a holistic health center, and they deal with the energy of the body. And they have protocols, and they use their training to work with your muscles, your fascia. They move it in certain ways. And this has also been done and taught by a certain kind of doctor. I believe that she's out of Germany, but I could be wrong on that. And this is what Lori studied under, her and her husband. And they have all these protocols, and it helped me in my rebirth process because I had all of this pain and trauma stuck in my body. And so when I would go into her office, you lay down on a table and she works with each of the muscle groups, finding where the trauma is and releasing it.
Wow.
And she's fantastic.
Wow.
So with her help and all the art that I created and all the time I spent in nature, I was able to create a healing process that's probably not traditional medicine.
Right.
But it works for you.
But it worked.
Yes,
And
it did.
it works for probably many others. You know,
Right.
just
I
gotta
think
explore.
the key is being open to exploring those kinds of alternative paths.
Yes.
Well, how is your relationship with your family now?
Well, I've reestablished relationships with three of my children. That wasn't easy because I'm a different person. They don't really recognize my passion for certain things now. It's hard when kids grow up with their mom and they just see her as mom and the things that she's did, her education, you know, she worked at a job, she took care of me. And so you know, I'm a different person and they like it, but they're adjusting still. It takes time. They want to embrace it, but in some ways they kind of wait to see how long it lasts, you know? They don't know. You know, it's kind of like that thing where you're a little shy about it. You want to be trusting. You want to totally think that this person is better and they're fine now, but they watch and observe. But that's kind of normal. That's what human nature does. Because I've changed so much.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's really fascinating that all of a sudden an incident can totally change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. My sister was rear-ended, and she hasn't been able to drive since. So this has been 8 years, and she had brain injury. She gets dizzy.
Oh.
But
vertigo?
Equilibrium.
Vertigo.
Yeah. Her so when she's in the car, she's like, she can't drive. So it's affected her for the rest of her life. And she's an artist too. I'm going to tell her to try her left hand.
Yeah, exactly. I know. What a great idea.
I'm going to try and say, you know, because she does do things, but her body's sometimes doesn't let her do things. So I'm going to suggest try something new.
Yeah, I love that.
I walked a lot.
Yeah.
And I would throw up on the side of the road.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get a lot of trauma to your head.
Yeah.
And you get dizzy easy. And
She gets dizzy,
and the vagus nerve just wants to go with it. But I was kind of a stinker. I didn't give up.
That's good.
And even though I didn't feel the greatest, I knew that sitting at home was not my answer.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
So being in nature is what did it for me.
She's a gardener by nature too, so she does get outside. She loves her flowers. That's her saving. That's her
that's
painting.
awesome.
Really.
And that's the green.
That's the green.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, your story is fascinating, and I'm interested to know if you are showing anywhere.
I am not, so I'm open for that.
Okay.
If someone wants to send
So
me
if
an
anybody
email or call me up, ding ding.
All right. Well, we know people.
I would love to show my work.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Well,
Let's remind everybody your website again.
RenewYourMindArt.com.
.com.
Okay.
Elizabeth Wilkes.
Yep, and
Thank
you can get a
so
hold
much.
of her on the website
Yes.
and find out if you want to talk to her about your own experience and how her experience might help you, then
Give her a call.
Give her a
Yes.
call. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I
talking to us.
appreciate it.
It's very interesting, and I'm so glad you're doing better.
I
and
know.
Thank you.
And that you're probably helping so many people.
Well, and I'm inspired by your story, the fact that you didn't want to give up and that you explored non-traditional avenues for healing yourself. And I think, the brain is a pretty powerful thing.
Yes.
And there are so many untapped possibilities
Sometimes
within our
mind
head.
over matter.
Right.
Sometimes. Yeah. So I'm going to explore those colors because
Right.
I need some new colors in my life.
Well,
This is
thank
great.
you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yep, and don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe to AllieCallieArtcast.com
That's
or any of
Any
the
streaming
podcasts.
we're there.
We're there.
Look us up.
Look us up. Yep, season 5.
We're here.
Yep. I heard once somebody said that after 5 years you can say that you're established.
Oh, we are established.
There you go.
All right.
Congratulations.
And I'm Allie.
And I'm Callie, and whatever you do today, make sure it's creative and try your left hand.
The Allie and Callie Artcast is brought to you by Tubbs Coffee Roasters, ethically sourced, locally roasted coffee, and Pyramid Printing and Embroidery, serving customers near and far for over 2 decades.